The upper medium segment may not be as ubiquitous as it once was, squeezed by downsizing and the rise of the crossover. But cars like the new Ford Mondeo are still very important to business users. And of course, it's a significant car for Ford too. But it faces stiff competition from the likes of the Mazda 6, Skoda Superb and Volkswagen Passat. As with any fleet-focused model, the Mondeo lives or dies by its CO2 figures, and the Ford goes into bat with a figure of 94 grams a kilometre for the 1.5 diesel. That's just 1 gram a kilometre less than the latest VW Passat Blue Motion, but 1 gram a kilometre is enough to put the Mondeo one tax band lower than the Passat. Not far behind the diesel on emissions is the petrol-electric hybrid Mondeo with a CO2 figure of 99 grams a kilometre. It's an appealing option with excellent refinement, a BIK advantage over a diesel with similar emissions, and modest whole life costs. However, the hybrid is only available as a saloon, not a hatch or an estate, and the hybrid drivetrain steals a significant amount of boot space. And from April 2016, the 3% surcharge for diesels will disappear, so the petrol-electric hybrid won't make the same fiscal sense. The lowest emitting and most technologically advanced versions are all very well, but more drivers will end up with the 2-litre 150 horsepower diesel. Standard versions emit as little as 115 grams a kilometre of CO2, while the Econetic, which we have on long-term test, emits just 107 grams a kilometre. The difference is accounted for by lowered suspension for improved aerodynamics and low rolling resistance tyres on 16-inch alloy wheels. From behind the wheel, there's no significant compromise in choosing the Econetic over the regular 2-litre. Perhaps the small alloys look a bit anemic, but there's no shortage of overtaking muscle. In fact, power and torque figures are identical for the Econetic and the regular model. The Ford drives well when the road starts to twist and turn. The steering may be a touch light, but the Mondeo still corners with poise, just like a Ford should. Perhaps it's not quite as entertaining as earlier generations of the Mondeo, but the more comfortable ride will be compensation enough for many, especially those with never-ending motorway miles to cover. Inside, the Ford feels solidly screwed together, even if the standard of finish isn't quite up to the VW Passats. The centre console is dominated by the latest version of Ford's Sync infotainment system, which is easier to use than earlier generations, although the way of finding a specific radio station is a little clumsy. There's plenty of space for rear seat passengers, and the hatchback's boot is bigger than the Estate's, so long as the rear seats are upright. Even so, there's more luggage space in a Skoda Superb, for example. Today's Ford Mondeo may not take the same leap forward as the original, but it's practical, easy to live with, and competitive on costs. There's no shortage of able competition, but the latest Mondeo can go toe-to-toe with any of them.